Okay, ladies, welcome to the Sexy Side of Menopause. We are here with another amazing episode and a phenomenal woman that I had on my summit a couple of years ago. She's amazing and she's in Europe. I love people who have that European perspective on life because here in the United States, I think we can learn a lot from people who've been in countries for centuries. So I want to again welcome you. This is the Sexy Side of Menopause. I'm Beverly Whitlow with Beverly Hills Health and Wellness Coaching. I'm a certified health coach, and I help women to break through the stigma of menopause and lean into a fabulous, confident, and sexy new vision of themselves through a holistic journey that I refer to as stepping into a powerful life. And that's the purpose of this conversation. As we talk about the sexy side of menopause, I feel like there's voices that are missing, and women need to know that this journey is going to be full of changes, but there's also amazing opportunities and experiences. And the women that I know are rocking menopause, and I'm looking at women that are 70 and 80 and just like, well, I want to be like that. They inspire me. So hopefully this show does the same thing for you. So I want to welcome you to Melissa, who is a dear woman on the menopause journey, and she's going to share that she's gone through some transitions since we talked last. So, Melissa, welcome. Thank you for being here, and please introduce yourself to everyone.
Oh, thank you for having me, Beverly. So excited to talk with you again. I'm Melissa. I'm based in the United Kingdom. I am a homeopath and I'm a Theta Healing Practitioner. And I combine all of that knowledge, wisdom of healing gifts and natural health care together to support women like yourself, Beverly, through menopause, through all stages of menopause, from peri right through to postmenopause as well. We women need to support each other. So that is what I do. And you were saying about I'm in a different place since we last spoke on your amazing summit a couple of years ago. So yeah, I'm officially post-menopause. Woo!
Club,
um,
club. Your life is going to be amazing. You already are living your best life, so I can't imagine what's up next for you. So, talk about your journey from like a couple of years ago when we were talking and you hadn't gotten over to the other side with me.
yes, yeah. So where I am now, I am almost 15 months without a cycle. And as you probably know, we medically say we're in menopause, 12 months of no cycle. And it's been quite a journey. So I turned 50 this year.
Oh,
As well, which was another big milestone.
oh,
uh, but my perimenopausal journey started at age 47. And it was quite an interesting time for me because I was divorced and I'd been on my own for about 4.5 years. And I'd got the courage and the confidence and felt like I wanted to meet someone else again. And I did meet an amazing man. And then all these symptoms started. It was incredible. We'll talk a little bit more about the connection with emotions and symptoms. But I kind of went through that whole perimenopausal, when estrogen is up and down, progesterone's lowering. So, insomnia, hot flushes, bladder irritability was something I really struggled with as well. Migraines, irregular cycles, the bloating at times that made me panic I was pregnant. It was like, oh my goodness, the weight gain fluctuation, all of these things. But I have to say, I've kind of come through the other side. I've obviously used a lot of my own tools of homeopathy, herbs, supplements, exercise and diet, and all of these things. But I've come through the other side and I really feel like just settled. My body feels settled now. This isn't something that is going to be ongoing or, we know it's not a health issue, is it? It's a natural transition. But I really feel now, I feel my energy is better than it's ever been. I
yeah.
feel my intuition has opened up like never before. Some of the things I pick up for myself and with clients when I'm working with them is just incredible, and I feel excited about the future. There's been moments, I will be honest, where I felt quite lost and quite like, where am I going? I think that was to do with turning 50, and all of a sudden I'm like, I'm not even near 51, which is the average age of menopause, and I'm completely in this place. But I just feel this, yeah, this new sense of passion and excitement and freedom as well.
I have goosebumps listening to you because give me a minute. I know that some women go through this journey and it's not easy. And I remember you telling me some of the things that you were going through. And then the relationship part of it. I have a woman that's going to be coming on that's talking about divorce. There is this change in our body, and then there's the cycle of life that's happening at the same time. And you just seem to be slammed with handling so much at one time. And to hear you say that you had to acknowledge it, you had to use your modalities to get through it. And now you're on the other side and you feel amazing. Like women need to know everybody's journey is not the same. Yours seemed to me really challenging. But to hear you talk about where you are today, my heart is so full because if women know, like, these difficulties, they don't stay with you. If you start using these different modalities or treatments or holistic approaches, you can get through this. And I know in your space, you're doing something even more amazing that I love for you to talk about and let the women know that's available to them. Because my I didn't even know I was going to be so emotional about this. I love this work that I do. I want to be authentic and vulnerable to women so they know that, everybody's journey is a little different. My journey was not like yours at all. So I have so much admiration for what you've been through. And then to be on the other side and just like, I know your life is amazing. I know it is. So let's talk about your modality because sometimes women think there's only one way. I need to go get hormone replacement therapy. And I'm just like, as a health and wellness coach working with women in menopause, I want to educate you. There are several paths for you, but just be educated and make the best choice for you. So I'm going to let you talk about that. And thank you for being so open and sharing. It really touched me deeply.
Oh, thank you, Beverly. That's lovely. Thank you. So I guess the way I've gone through it is like a conscious menopause. That's how I feel I've done it consciously because to me, I didn't want to go down the HRT medical route at all. So it has felt at times like quite scary doing that because it's almost like you're going against the mainstream a little bit. Many women will just say, oh, just have HRT. But to me, that just didn't sit right with me. That doesn't feel right because menopause it's not a deficiency. We're not on the decline, ladies. This isn't an illness or a health disorder. It's a completely natural transition. It's as a natural transition as puberty, but we're going kind of the reverse. You know, we're going from becoming reproductive to becoming non-reproductive. And I think as women, we're told that our bodies are failing us. Nothing could be further from the truth. There is nothing about us that says we are failing. It really isn't.
Yes.
Um, and I think the way I've managed it is understanding that my symptoms are, yeah, my body going through a natural change. And with homeopathy, we look at symptoms very different to how modern medicine would look at them. So we look at symptoms as the body's attempts to heal itself. So it's understanding, it's listening to the body and what it's trying to tell you and what it needs to do. So, for example, hot flushes are an amazing way for the body to detox. And I know this is your thing, Beverly, you're all about the detox.
That is my wheelhouse. It's about detoxification. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. And, sweating is a really important detox function. You think in the Western world, we're sold all these deodorants and antiperspirants, and actually, sweating is a very, very effective way to the body to rid itself of toxins.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and the raising body temperature. I mean, in homeopathy, um, when a child, for example, or even an adult has a fever, that enables the body's white blood cells to work more effectively. It literally is burning off virus and bacteria. And I almost think of hot flushes are almost like, they're like our firepower. They're literally clearing away layers of things. And any time, I mean, I still do have the odd one, being honest with you, but I just welcome them. I just, okay, that's my body. It's, shedding another layer of something. There's a book, I might have talked about this when we talked on your Menopause Gem Summit, but there is a book and the lady's name escapes me, but she believes that high body temperature has so many good effects on our health. You know, you might have heard about the health benefits of saunas and things, but she even believes that it's the body preparing itself for our next stage of life as women, and that has the ability even to burn off cancer cells, which is so amazing. So amazing. So that's sort of the first where I would start with women, is understanding that this is a completely natural transition. Your body's not going wrong. You're not going on the decline. And the only way isn't HRT, because if we work with the body to bring it back into balance,
Homeostasis.
especially, yeah, absolutely, then the body will. And I feel, I mean, I've obviously worked with many women over many years, but I really feel I'm kind of testament to this, that I have got through this stage, and I promise you, as I talked about, I feel settled, I feel calm, I feel confident, I don't worry about my symptoms anymore. You know, there's a lot of scaremongering, isn't there, about, well, if you don't take HRT, what's the latest one is you're going to get Alzheimer's, or you're going to have osteoporosis. Well, there's so many ways we can look after our bones, you know, weight bearing exercise, eating right. And you know, Alzheimer's, there are so many causes for things like that. We can't just, everything seems to be blamed on the menopause here in the UK. I don't know if it's like that in America, Beverly, but menopause gets such a bad rap.
It does. It does. Thus, the Sexy Side of Menopause podcast. I am out to be a voice to challenge some of the negativity out there. And what you spoke about, the hot flashes and the heat, that makes so much sense to me, because I remember when I was younger and you would get sick or something and they would talk about, like, I grew up with grandmothers, great grandmothers, and a two-parent household, baby boomer. So everything was natural and holistic. And they were like, let them sweat it out, let them have that fever. That's a good thing. And when you think about hot flashes, it has to be a correlation to your body doing something to purge during this journey. So that is remarkable. And another way for women to think about it, because mine mine is going to the place, well, if you haven't really been taking care of yourself that well, your body's trying to help you by doing these things to purge. So I love that perspective.
Mhm. Yeah, the body symptoms are always, they're never there. The body's never going to create anything that's going to harm itself. You know, it's creating things in order for us to heal. You know, when I had the migraines, for example, I was in bed for a day, which is probably what I needed. I needed to rest. I'd probably been doing things, you know, being a single parent all those years and doing everything on my own. We just burn ourselves out. And I think what else is interesting is by the time we get to the age that we start menopause and that whole transition, if you think about it, we've had, say, in my case, 47 years of living with so many toxins and stress. And I like to use the analogy of a bath. You know, it gets so full. We've got to pull the plug out. We've got to do something. And I think when we get to this stage, we're moving through to a new life phase. The wise woman, the
That,
crone, the queen. There's all
that
sorts of names for this next life stage. And our bodies are wanting us to not be carrying all of this toxicity anymore. It gets to a certain level where, especially when hormones are changing, because you need your stress hormones to be in balance for there to be a hope of any other hormones balancing, because your body puts priority on stress hormones. There are basic survival hormones. So, you know, if they're very high, estrogen, progesterone, all those things doesn't have a hope of balancing. So, you know, we really need the self-care really needs to step up um, at this time in our lives.
you're preaching to the choir to me, without even adding anything to your regimen. It's being conscientious about what is your body saying to you at this stage. One of the things that I have realized in coaching women, it's the need to take care of everyone. I need to take care of my kids. I need to take care of my husband. I need to take care of my aging parents. I need to take care of my job. I need to take care of my church. I need to take care of my social circle. And it's just like, well, where are you on that list? And I
Mhm.
feel like menopause is a gift. I'm certain that there's challenges, but it's a gift. It's your body's saying, hey, come here, lean into the camera. It's your time, sis. It's your time to take care of your health, to prioritize being the best version of yourself, to lean into what this next level of life looks like, to put you at a place that you're filling your cup up. And a lot of times, women don't realize how overloaded they are with things until they go into the doctor's office for an annual checkup and realize, well, your blood pressure's off the radar here, your cholesterol's messed up, your um, different areas, high blood pressure, diabetes, like all of these factors start to come into play because if you haven't been prioritizing eating well, exercising, finding things for self-care to de-stress, then they start to all show up around this phase of 50 to 60 of midlife. So you really have to focus on, okay, let's be healthy during this stage, because if not, you truly end up with some major medical concerns. And a lot of them are difficult to turn around without a lot of medication at
And
that
I
point.
think the more, yeah, yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more, Beverly. And the more we ignore our bodies, I think the louder the symptoms will be. You
Mhm.
know, for example, you know, a lot of women struggle with bladder irritability and UTIs. It was irritability for me. I never went to actual UTIs because I treated myself homeopathically for those. But if you were to go, the standard treatment for that is antibiotics. So if you go and get antibiotics, that might clear up that infection, but that doesn't address the susceptibility to that. You need to look at why the body is keeping doing that. And then the more you've had antibiotics, because
I
they
can,
can't discriminate between good and bad bacteria, they wipe out all the good stuff, which is our immune system. So it's like this cycle. So
yeah,
it's almost like we can't get away from this. We can put these sticking plasters on, but eventually we've got to come back and listen to the body. And interestingly, 'cause this is another part of the work I do, what's amazing about symptoms is a lot of symptoms. And the more I learn, the more I think most symptoms have an emotional root. So anything with the bladder is to
truly.
do with resentment. It's literally what has pissed you off. Um, is
Mhm.
what's going on in the bladder. So it's looking at, you know, what triggers us, who's making us angry, who's making us feel resentful. Is that a situation, a person? And actually addressing that and moving through it and healing it.
Yeah.
Not just that, I feel that's the way we get the body to heal. It's not just physical, it has to be on the emotional and the mental level as well, and the spiritual level too. It's amazing what will come up when we start to look into the body's history. And
Yeah, it's really interesting. There is a book by Louise Hay, and I know you know who she is.
I do, yeah,
Very eye-opening. I had a person in my life. She was a Bach flower specialist, and
yeah.
she also did homeopathy. So that's how I was introduced to it. And she asked me to read this book by Louise Hay. And I knew of Louise Hay, but I knew of her more for like affirmations and positive mindset. And she's like, no, you need to understand all of your organs are tied to something emotionally. And if you don't address those emotions, they get lodged and they don't get moved, and it manifests in some type of dis-ease. And I read this book, and you guys please check it out. It's a really small book because I think it's like How to Heal Yourself, maybe like 75.
Yeah, I've got the book here.
But when I was reading some of the symptoms, like I had been in so many car accidents. I'm in the DC metro area. We're like overly run with cars and traffic and gridlock. But when I've had my car accidents, I ended up needing some physical therapy, and it was like an impact to my back. So I feel like, why is the impact always affecting the same area for me? We're always working on the back. And when I read Louise Hay's back book and read about the back, it was spot on with some of the things that I was dealing with in my life. Like I was carrying something and it was manifesting with problems in my back. Whereas I feel like if I had been in some of those accidents and I wasn't dealing with those things, I probably wouldn't have had the stress of it impacting my back so bad. So I've been aware of those things. I remember something about your hands. A lot of people talk about arthritis, and it's just like, why is that settling in? Why are so many people with arthritis not think about this? And it's not to put people in a box, but it explains some things. You see people much older in life, and they don't seem like they're at peace, and they don't seem like they have this like love in their life, but they seem to have problems with arthritis really bad. And that's an indication you're holding on to something. You're not letting it go, maybe anger or something. And just like, oh, and then I just start reading these other symptoms and just like, oh, I see this. So when you feel something in your body, just be cognizant. And as women during this stage, you talk about the intuition, you should actually be feeling when something is not right in your body. I can always tell this is off. And I'm not one that usually is sick, but when I feel something off, I'm just like, well, I don't understand. Let's see what's happening. And a detox is my first address. Let's detox. Let's try to work on purging things out and allow my body to settle. So that's a very good point that you brought up.
Yeah. Louise Hay, actually, for your listeners and viewers of this podcast, is a really great place to start with the book. It's called You Can Heal Your Life, the book. And it, like you say, it's a very short book, but that's a really great way to look at some of the deeper emotional roots to symptoms. I mean, I think, we've talked a little bit about toxicity, but the body stores emotional trauma as well. And I think at menopause, because we're going to this new phase, it's like we don't want to be carrying that emotional baggage through to the next phase as
Yeah.
well. And that's why the work I do and what I've done with myself is really look at, well, what is this showing me? I had recently, it was interesting, you were talking about arthritis. I do a lot of yoga, and just in the past couple of weeks, downward dog, when you've got that pressure on your arms, and my wrists are really hurting. And I'm like, what's going on here? Because I love my yoga, I can't not be doing this. And when I tuned in, and what it was all about losing my grip. And it all went back actually to my divorce and feeling like losing this handle on life,
Yeah.
losing things. And I think the body brings things up when we're ready to deal with them as well. So I was like, okay, this is interesting. So I'm treating it homeopathically. I'm using
Yeah.
a lovely remedy at the moment called rhododendron, which is a flower remedy, and it's working brilliantly. And I'm managing to go back to yoga. But once I shifted that deep emotional route to it, the healing happens so much quicker.
And it's really interesting that you were able to zero in on it, because if you're busy with life and you're not tuned into your body, that's when these things turn into something that's beyond what you can naturally deal with. And you end up in a situation where, okay, I did not listen to the whispers. And now all of a sudden somebody's on the bullhorn with a problem because my body is echoing that effect. So let's talk a little bit about homeopathy, because I don't think that there's enough understanding about it. Um, I'm going to talk as a novice because I saw my friend do it, but there was these vials, little bitty vials, and they had little beads. If you think about something as tiny as like a little pearl that's in the little body bath, that's what I,
Yeah, yeah, the tiny little pilules. Yeah, yeah.
but the vial is really tiny as well, like maybe this big. And there are vials that are filled with different substances. And I'll let you go into details, but just for people who just can't imagine what this is like, I'm going to speak from that naivete, and then you'll take us to a very professional perspective. But I was thinking like the essence of like a sugar pill or something really, really tiny. And it's just like if you had a problem with a headache, there's a series of questions that you were asked to be able to identify. Well, is the headache in the front of the brain or something, or is it in the back? Like you have to be very detailed and specific so you can address it. So it's not like going to the doctor, you have a headache, and they like, well, here's like ibuprofen, for example. It's very specific and specialized. And for me, that was just like eye opening. It was just like, we can zero in and take something specifically for what's ailing me, and not take something that's going to go through my whole body addressing something that's not even a problem. So I hope that brought some context. So if you don't know anything about that, and then Melissa is the expert and she's going to go deep into it so we can have a very good understanding.
Yeah, that's a really great explanation, Beverly, because homeopathy is we treat the individual, we treat the person, we don't treat the diagnosis. We look at that person. So you're quite right. When someone comes to me with a headache or a migraine, I want to know, when is it worse? What makes it better? Which area of the head is it in? Does it hurt to move your head? Does it make you nauseous? Because we work by matching remedies to patients. So homeopathy is well over 200 years old. It predates conventional medicine by quite a long time, and it works. One of the fundamental principles is the body has the ability to heal itself, and it only needs a tiny catalyst. That's why we only use tiny amounts of highly diluted substances. So there's no side effects. They're incredibly gentle, and the way they work is by stimulating the body to heal itself. So bringing it back into balance. So we work with over 3,000 remedies. We have a huge toolkit. So for headaches, there's this many remedies, but we're going to find the one that works for you to bring your body back into balance. So that might be a more hormonally um, based remedy. If it's a headache thing, sometimes it's just dehydration with headaches, isn't it? And we need to help. There are
Yeah.
remedies to help balance water in the body, or help someone to have the salt and water balance in their body corrected. So we very much, when I work with people, it's highly individualized, and it is quite an involved and long consultation, because we're looking at, we have our classic remedies for menopause, but actually we're looking for the ones that are going to work for you specifically, and that might be something that's not even a hormone related remedy. It's so fascinating. Every new woman I work with, it's a new journey and it's a new case, and we see how they respond to the remedies. But it's really a really lovely way to manage symptoms. There's not any menopausal symptoms that I don't think could be managed by homeopathic remedies. And in answer to with the little pills, so um, we're about 70% plant-based. And then we have other things that we can work with as well. We can use, because homeopathy is so highly diluted, we can work with disease products and all sorts of things, but mainly we use the plant-based ones. And so we have our little pilules. I don't know if you can see them up on my shelf there. And then they are the sucrose unmedicated. And then we put little drops on of I've got drawers full of remedies of what anyone would need. We then put them on there, and then we work out potency and dosage. That's all very important as well. It's this not one size fits all medicine. It's different for everyone, but it's a beautiful system of healing. It really is.
It really is. And to me, it's like it's tied to nature. To me, nature has all the answers. It's not something cooked up and let's see how it works and we'll try it. It's very individualized. And the other aspect of it for me is like the side effects are not there. Like the people who get some of these prescriptions, it's just like, okay, well, we're going to address this one symptom that you have, but then the side effects are going to be so much more increased as a result of taking that. And then I've also heard instances where you have to take another medication to deal with some of the symptoms that were
Yes.
of taking the first medication. So it's just like, okay, to me, that's nuts. To me, it's nuts.
Yeah, yeah. It's like statins actually. I don't know if you have those in the US, but sometimes I work with people who've taken statins and the side effects are horrible. Um,
Yeah,
whereas there are other ways to reduce cholesterol, and there's actually some very good probiotics now which work to reduce cholesterol. But again, it's looking at the symptoms around the heart for that person. Have they had heartbreak? Have they had, because again, what's in the emotional will come through to the physical.
true. And that's the thing about the type of work that you do. You're working with the whole person. And even though you have this toolkit where you can work with homeopathy, you're also looking at the emotions and what's happening in a person's life and finding ways to address these in a way that you're not going to have all of these different side effects. It's a journey going through menopause, but once you can find out how to bring your body back in balance, and you're on the other side like you are, life gets to be so amazing. I'm in so many groups with women who are doing things that blows my mind. As a health and wellness coach, I'm a businesswoman, so I'm in circles with women who have left their jobs. They may have been in a job for a whole career, maybe hit the six-figure mark, maybe higher, but are totally stressed and in this place where, you know what, what do I do for the next stage of my life? I can't keep working at that pace. So all of a sudden they're assessing their skill sets, and it's just like, okay, well, I want to take this particular skill set and I want to make a business out of it. And they hit the ground running, and all of a sudden they got a business that's more in revenue than when they were working for a company, that they were making the profit for the company, but also stressing themselves out to the place that the menopause journey was challenging. So that's amazing. There's women that I've met that have written books and are doing tours with their books. Myself, I'm actually speaking in places that I've never spoken before. I'm going to be speaking in Paris. So there's all of these opportunities that are available for you in this stage of life. And I have to say, I feel like it's because this gift of menopause is like, okay, if you've had children, a lot of times the children are at the point that they can be independent, or like myself, empty nesting. You find that there's a calling on your life, maybe something that you always wanted to do, and it was like on the to-do list when life allows, well, this is the time. I'm always referencing this hourglass. Ladies, this is us on the menopause journey, and right now we need to decide what is important for us to lean into and manifest in this stage of our life, because it's amazing. The universe will open up for you. You just need to be in community, podcasts like this to inspire you, women like Melissa, who's doing things to help you along the journey. I just want to encourage you and challenge you to just live your best life, because it's possible. I had a woman, I think you probably met her on one of my summits. Her name was Wendy Ida. She was celebrating like the 73rd birthday.
Yes, I remember Wendy. Yes, she's does a lot of she's the bodybuilding and yeah, physical. Yeah, I do remember.
I looked at her and I was thinking, I got some work to do. This woman's body, I would put up against any 20-year-old body. She has an amazing body, but she doesn't have a body like that just happened. She's very conscientious about how she eats and take care of herself. She's active. She travels around the world. She makes me tired looking at it, but she inspires me. So, ladies, just live your best life and find the community where you can be encouraged and supported. And as you're making your way through this menopause journey and you need some help, Melissa is a person that definitely can do that. So, Melissa, I cannot believe where the time went, but can you tell women
No,
can meet you,
yeah,
with you, how you can support them on this journey so they
yeah, of course.
are on the other side?
Of course. I just want to pick up on one little thing you said there, Beverly, about the whole career thing, because I think menopause is when we come into our authority as women. It really is. And I think that so many women are struggling right now with menopause. It's like a reflection of the state of the world, you know, the level of stress and toxicity we live in. We've lost that connection to nature, the cycles, the seasons, the sacred, the divine. And I think we've spent so long working against the body's natural cycles of rhythms, and a culture that denies that, the patriarchy and the persistent stress of this takes its toll. But menopause, as you said earlier, really is a gift where we can come back, um, and it's like a reset. It's a transition. It's a metamorphosis. It's a reset, and it's a golden opportunity. And uncovering the emotional roots to symptoms, I find quite exciting. It's really interesting. About, oh wow, there's a book just come out. It's on my reading list called "The Body Keeps the Score." Body Keeps Score is all about emotional trauma. So you know, I'm not denying that it can be difficult, and I've been there, but hold on, because there's gifts in this. There really is. There really
Yes,
is.
support you need though, because if you're listening to the narrative, we have to be real. The men decide how a lot of things happen, especially here in the United States. Maybe it's a little different in Europe, but in the United States, there are laws on the books that you can't do what you want to with your body as a woman, because there's been this
Mm,
conversation around, okay, let's make laws as men to decide, you don't have control over your own body.
yeah, absolutely. And I also think that telling women menopause is a terrible thing and your body's going wrong, you're on the decline. It's almost like keeping us suppressed in a way, isn't it? You know, because when you look back at our ancestors, you know, women were once very powerful.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know, when you all this I've been reading a lot this year about the divine feminine, you know, we were the prophets, the priestesses, you know, women were greatly revered. And then we've just had this thousands of years of, you know, our bodies demonized, demeaned, taught to be ashamed of them, to fear them, and that the whole feminine energy is just something that should be, you know, crushed. And we store that trauma on some level because this is something we do in theatre, as we look at ancestral trauma as well. But you know, I think that there's a big rising of this now. So there's women like you and I and all the wonderful women that you talk to, that is like we're in our feminine power. And I think scaring women about menopause is stopping us coming into that power, because that's what we need in the world. We need the balance of the masculine and the feminine. It's been too towards the masculine
Yes.
for too long. And that's not to say that, you know, we're going to have a matriarchal society. That's not what nature's about. It's about being in the balance of the masculine and the feminine.
I am hearing a part two on being a crone, understanding the true power of that word. Just like you,
Yeah,
I have done some studies around that. I took a course a while back on the stages of womanhood and the women who are going through the menopause phase. I spent a lot of time digging deep into that. And I really had planned to do a not really a teaching, but maybe like an informational session to talk about that, because it is so true. Women were highly revered as they moved through the stage. And in certain locations of the world, women were helping men to understand the cycles of nature because they're the ones that were going out to take care of the family. And there's just so much to it. It's just like, this is truly a part two. If you're open and available, I'd love to have that conversation, because sometimes it feels a little taboo to talk about it, but basically I feel like it's bringing truth to challenge the narrative, because there's just so much out there that we need to start having conversations around. I remember, and I'm going to stop. I'm just like, I will go on and on. But I think about my upbringing. It was like the great grandmothers who had the elixirs, they had the remedies, they had ways to keep you through the seasons to stay well. If you had something that you were challenged with, they knew what combinations of herbs to put together. So they were the ones that were the doctors in the community
yeah,
before
yeah,
doctors came along. So we have that within us, ladies. We're
we
connected
do.
to Earth. We're connected to the moon. There's just so much more I can say.
There is. It's a whole other podcast conversation we'll have to have. And actually, just on what you're saying, traditionally as women, when we did that, that's what witches were. You know, witches get such a bad rap, but actually they were women who knew what herbs to use, who knew what plants to use, who knew to keep a cat because it kept rats and mice out, who had a broomstick because they knew that keeping a clean house meant, you know, we stayed in good health. But, you know, it's all of that persecution energy, isn't it? Of, you know, keeping women down. And I really think it's such an exciting time to be alive, because this whole feminine, you, me, the conversations we're having, this is what's all coming back, is this empowerment to women, and that's what's needed in the world right now.
Yes. So
Powerful women in their menopausal transition.
this has been such a delight. Like I say, the conversations that I have with women, they go all over the place, and I always am delighted about how they take a life of their own. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for being here. And truly, I'm penciling you in on my calendar for
I'd love that. I'd love that, Beverly.
the women.
Like I didn't answer your last question where you can find me. Probably the best place is to go to my website, which is melissajayres.com. And on there, I have a free masterclass called Managing Perimenopause and Menopause Naturally, where I talk a lot more about some of the things we've talked about today. So that's probably the best place to find me. And I also have, and you can find this on my Instagram, which is at Melissa Ayres. I run a monthly Women's Wisdom and Healing Circle with another Theta practitioner where we just do lovely healing for women and we come together as a group on Zoom. So you can
Oh,
kind of join and get a little taste of Theta, joining us once a month to do that as well.
into that. Well, thank you for sharing that. And I will definitely have all of your contact information listed at the close of this podcast. Melissa, you are a gem. Thank you for sharing. I'm so delighted to hear how things have just been on the upswing for you on this other side of the menopause journey. I am so grateful for your time. I love bringing in that European conversation. Sometimes here in the United States, we have this linear way of looking at things. So, what you brought to us today has definitely been so insightful. And I am so grateful that we know each other and can stay in community and talk more about this conversation. So, I am so grateful for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Beverly. Thank you so much. It's always an absolute joy talking with you.
Awesome.
Thank
Well,
you
thank
for having me.
That is the conclusion of this episode of the Sexy Side of Menopause. I hope you have something that you are going to execute. This is a place where we want to encourage you to be the best version of yourself on the Sexy Side of Menopause. We'll see you in the next episode.